Good morning, YouTube. It is 10 to 8, December 15th, 2020. It's my sister's birthday. Happy birthday, Rhonda. She probably won't get it unless I call her Scabby, but that's an inside joke. So, um, I'll tell you the story. Um, as a young man, a young boy, I used to I used to love to, climb trees like all young boys do, and I'd get up in the tree and then I'd get scared to death of the heights, and I'd be up there half the day and people would be looking for me, and my sister'd have to go find the biggest tree because I'd be stranded up in the tree, frozen solid, and couldn't get down without some coaxing. Anyway, there was a great big tree, and I got myself up in there and couldn't get down, and um, she had to get up in the tree underneath me, um, to try to help me get down. She's just come down, come down. I was like, I can't. She's, yeah, just do it. Put your foot on my shoulder. And she was underneath me a couple of branches, and so there was a spot there that was kind of, there wasn't any branches to come to. So she used her shoulder, and I went from my foot on her shoulder to my other foot on her shoulder, and she's hanging onto the tree and the branches, and there was a big space where the tree was uh, didn't have any branches all down to the ground, and anyway, I ended up on her shoulders, like getting a piggyback, but up on her shoulders, and she couldn't hold the weight, and she was trying to come down the tree, bless her heart, with me on her shoulders, and she was gripping around the trunk of the tree, and we slid down the tree, and she was grabbing it with her inside of her, wrapping her legs around it like a horse, and her arms, and we slid down the tree, and I was fine. Yeah, I was in good shape. she she saved my bacon, and from that day forward, her nickname was Scabby. So anyway, happy birthday, Rhonda. I love you for all the times you come and save my bacon. Anyway, today, real short video. I'd like to just um, touch on a few things, and this will be super short. Anyway, I think your car is probably one of your best friends. If you do own some kind of a vehicle, hopefully it's a minivan, or even better, a big van. Um, it's just, you know, a lot of good comes from it. You can use it for camping or whatever, but uh, if things got ugly, you could always face your car where a lot of the windows are facing the south side, even in the middle of winter. Um, by early morning or noonish, your car is nice and warm from the sun coming through the windows if you've got sun. Um, but if you got stranded or anything in a snowstorm and had to spend the night in it, if you had some extra storage or something where you could keep, like I say, an emergency backpack, or blankets or sleeping bags or something like that, um, your vehicle makes really good shelter if all the windows are still in it. So, um, the homeless people, there's a huge problem with people living on the streets and under bridges, and wherever they can find. And I bet if you was to ask any of them, what would be, their main goal would be have some kind of shelter, not a tent. Tents are noisy in the wind, and they're cold, and not comfortable at all. And I think a vehicle, you could actually blacken out some windows with either cutting up black garbage bags and using some magnets. Sometimes you can get through the headliner. You can find screws that are coming out from plastic parts and things like that you could hook magnets to hold the garbage bags up, or just a little, Gorilla Tape, duct tape, something like that to kind of put those up in place of the window so you have some privacy so you can sleep. And cars are pretty quiet inside, so generally if you were stranded or something, sleep would be a biggie. If you could get a little bit and keep yourself warm or comfortable that way. I would recommend too, always keep your car full of fuel. You just never know when you're going to need it. There's been situations where I was in a town and the neighboring town had like a forest fire, and it killed all the power. It burned up the power lines. Some of these gas stations do have generators and stuff, so they're able to pump some gas, but there was a lot in that town that couldn't pump any gas. You couldn't even go anywhere. There was like 2 gas stations in this whole town that was run by generator that you could actually get some gas, and I'm telling you, it took hours and hours just to get to the pumps because of the lines were so long. And it's like, if you needed to be somewhere or just if you had to evacuate, you definitely don't want to have a quarter of a tank of gas and I'll get it tomorrow. You can't be lazy. Just make sure you've got that thing topped off. Anytime you make a trip out of town and come back home, top it off before you get to your house, just so you know you got a full tank of gas. It's going to cost you every time to fill up anyway. What difference does it make if it was 5 gallons or if it was 20 gallons? So always top it off. Not to mention, a full tank of gas will dilute if you've got any water building up in your tank, floating on the top, or anything's getting in your tank. It's always better to be running on a full tank than, quarter of a tank of gas. So, and not to mention, the car has a radio. If there's any local news stations you're picking up just from your antenna, if there is some thing like that forest fire or whatever it was, road closures, things like that, you'll find that out. If you don't know what's going on and you can't get out of town, sometimes the radio is going to be something that you can rely on for that too. And it's just good company too. So in the middle of winter, say you were cold, nowhere to go, if you had a full tank of gas, and I'm not saying you do have to be aware of where your exhaust pipe is and how much snow and everything else. You don't want to kill yourself with carbon monoxide, but by letting a car run for long periods of time. But just to take that chill off, just to warm up, even if you had to sit in your car for an hour with blankets or whatever and getting it warmed up, get your body core temperature back up, things like that. I think, a vehicle is an amazing shelter and, of course, transportation too. So I guess when buying a vehicle, take that in consideration. Maybe get a vehicle that's got, like seats that fold down flat to where you can sleep in it. A lot of people like minivans and stuff, and I'll tell you, once you've owned one, it's hard to go back to anything else because they're really versatile. They, of course, will haul a lot of people, but a lot of them, like the Dodge Grand Caravans, and their seats will fold down in the floor. And a lot of people say, well, I don't need that many seats. Well, take a couple of them out, and then you got a flat spot. It's like a big jockey box like a glove box down in the floor where you could store a ton of stuff, camping equipment, whatever. I don't know what you guys are into, but I'll tell you what, if you have an emergency backpack and a blanket and a vehicle, no matter where you're at, especially if you can lay down flat and get some good rest, if you could block out the windows a little bit. I mean, I've got a son that he likes living that way. He's been living in a vehicle and he's got a van. He picked a van. The last 1, 2, 3, 4 vehicles he's had were vans, either minivans or full-size vans or something of that sort. And he actually prefers it. So he's a pretty tough nut and he likes life that way. But I'll tell you, it'd beat the shit out of living outside. So anyway, think about what you've got and always keep it full of fuel. And so there you go. And always remember to be aware of your surroundings. Remember where you came from and how to get back there. Till then, talk to you later.